Welcome back, everyone, to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Casen.
We're here to talk about the chaos route of Tactics Ogre.
Yep.
The only real differences are in Chapter 3.
Yes.
So it's mostly Chapter 3 of Chaos we're going to talk about. There's one thing in the 4th chapter we didn't touch on last week, and this is the alternate way in which the Kashua scene can go.
Oh, good, because that's I've got that too.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about
that was good.
That as well. That's the plan for today. And then next week we're going to jump into the differences with the law route.
With law.
But today we are focused on Chapter 3, Chaos.
Yep.
Overall, I did like this route better than neutral.
Yeah.
But there's actually more similarities than I expected.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things went either the same way or more or less the same way by the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are different battles.
The end,
There are different characters you can recruit, or you recruit characters from the other route in different ways this time.
Yeah.
But it kind of all leads to the same end because it has to lead into Chapter 4 more or less the same way.
Yeah.
Because Chapter 4 is not very different.
Right. So Denim, I guess in the neutral route, you would have Denim would eventually become the head of Almorica.
Yes.
By being the second in command,
Yes,
and then
to
just
Lana.
default. Whereas with this one, we're kind of like a competing force alongside the Duke that we end up kind of like ousting him and then becoming the head of the Wallister.
Yeah.
So I guess we just kind of do it in a different way, but it's basically the same result.
Yeah, same result.
Yeah.
It's different route to a lot of the same result, more or less, for Chapter 2. But it leads off with a similar scene to how Chapter 3 neutral starts with the Dark Knights. Balsaphon is sort of upset with the knights who went and attacked Ryme.
What were they doing?
So that scene more or less goes the same, except that Vice shows up at the end.
Yes, Vice is there.
And he has...
and he's so arrogant.
Yeah. He has... he's there seemingly on behalf of the Duke as an envoy to make sure that their alliance holds and that the knights will stay neutral. But as we find out very shortly after this, Vice is also sent. I actually don't think he's sent to Branton. He goes there on his own, I think we learn later. But he's like he said at the end of Chapter 2 when you're fighting him one-on-one, he's not being used in his mind.
He's the user.
Yes.
Yeah. What's funny about that is I like the way that this scene... remember, it felt a little bit weird when the Duke was the one betraying the Dark Knights, and then the Dark Knights were like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, we were going to side with you. But when it happens this way, I think it's a little bit more natural. I think it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I mean, Ronway was standing there with Lanar, and they were both baffled, you've betrayed me. No, I didn't. I promise I didn't. I did not know about this at all. So in this route, Vice is sort of like playing his hand to try to destroy the Bakram, even though he's sort of pretending to side with Branton.
Yeah.
But he's only doing that to use Branton so that he can get at the Dark Knights. He talks with them and pretends he's allying with them so that he can... Anyway, he's trying to kill all of them.
But he's using the Duke. Yeah, he's trying to kill them all.
He's trying to take over himself. And it doesn't work out great for him. But
it does not.
We will get to that later. Yeah. But he shows up, such a grave assemblage of knights with the blood of their armor to prove it. Blood on their armor to prove it. Like you were saying, the way he talks to lords and knights and...
One-Eyed Lance in particular. And that's where Balsaphon is just like, how dare you speak like that?
Stop.
And
I can't bear this anymore.
Lancelot's like, hey, it's fine, whatever.
He's surprisingly...
Yes.
Surprisingly lenient.
And he is actually this is, I think, consistent with neutral route as well.
Yeah.
He's surprisingly lenient for the thing that happens at the end of chapter 3.
Yes.
That's wild. But in this one, I could totally see Lance doing this, because this is kind of how he is with Barbas and some of the others as well. He's just like, you guys aren't even listening to me at all, but it's okay.
It's really weird.
It's very strange.
There's a lot of insubordination, a lot of people and he just kind of lets it go all the time.
He does.
It's just strange to me how lenient he is of people speaking up, being insolent, straight up insubordination.
The only thing you do to receive punishment, unless you just happen to be part of his mission, in which he'll just mow you right over, is you have to take out one of his eyes or something. Then he'll visit,
then
he'll rain down upon you the fires of hell. Yeah. But other than that, it's like, it's all good. This actually did remind me a little bit of, this is about 15 years ago. Phil Jackson, as the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, right? He would yell at his players all the time. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. This isn't right. You were in the wrong place. This isn't what we practiced. But there was one player he never yelled at, and that was Kobe Bryant. Yep. And one time, most of the players just intuitively know, we know why he's not yelling at Kobe, but he's yelling at everyone else. It's because Kobe's the most talented player in the world, right? Okay, well, one time a player, probably younger or new, I can't remember who it was, but somebody did bring it up to Phil Jackson and said, "Hey man, how come you're always yelling at us and you never yell at him?" Mm-hmm. And he kind of just takes a minute and thinks, and he goes, "Look, Kobe Bryant is in attack mode. When I look in his eyes and I see that he is so immersed in what he's doing, I'm not going to touch that, right? But you all need to shape up, right? Yeah, right? You all need to get in line, and I'm talking to all of you. But when Kobe's doing his thing, we let it go, because so many times it has proven to be correct, right? Now, here's the thing. I kind of get that with One-Eyed Lance, where he's like, look, you're not listening to me. You're doing your own thing, but I'm going to allow it to happen because it's going to be a net benefit in the future, right? It's different when you do that for one player on your team versus everyone's insubordinate, right? Isn't it a little bit different? Yeah. Because I got the Phil Jackson vibes at first, but as things go, I'm just like, wait a second. If Phil Jackson just has 15 Kobe Bryants on the roster and he's basically, they're all in attack mode and he won't tell any of them what to do, then is he even the coach? What is he even doing? Yeah. Right? So then One-Eyed Lance doing his thing, he's trying to wheel and deal, and I guess they follow him enough to sometimes be where he tells them to be. But for the most part, they're all just super idiosyncratic. They're all very, very unique individuals and who really don't like being told what to do.
Yeah. One-Eyed Lance, you could say, is the embodiment of the hold up, let him cook meme. Where he's holding back people. Just hold on. Just let him cook for a second. I don't know why. It does come across as kind of strange. It is. Seems to just tolerate a lot of that kind of thing.
And I wonder if Matsuno is trying to ride this. He is an antagonist in this game, but he could be a protagonist of his own story. Maybe.
I mean, who knows how many parts? I know he had kind of outlined, 7 or 8 episodes of Ogre
9.
Battle.
Yeah,
but I don't know how much of that he had done or if that was informing what. But anyway, they go back and forth a little bit. Vice is saying. Things like, I won't ask you to go prostrating yourselves in apology to the Duke.
Yes.
We would know the lie of your hearts. That's all we just want to know.
Yep. And he says, and if we are to take over all of the island and kill everyone you love.
What if I told you that?
And then Vice is like, that's just, then I just feel bad for the people who are going to die, I guess. He's totally full of it, right? He's just lying too. They're both lying to each other. But he's just saying, I just want to know, and even if it's a bad thing, then I'll just feel bad and I'll just go.
Well, the last part of what he says in that line is, so the first part was, I'd shed a tear for the people who would suffer in the conflict, as I would expect you to lose the favor of every lord who ever sat a throne in this land or beyond. I think Vice is in the know that this would not sit well with Zenobia. Yeah. This would not sit well elsewhere. So
there's a reason why the Dark Knights are neutral.
They need to be neutral.
They have to be neutral.
And they kind of mentioned this back in Neutral Route was, we don't want Zenobia to think that we're picking favorites in this war, or that we're involved for some reason. We don't want them to suspect that we have something to gain in this, because what they're really after, of course, is Kashua or the sword that are keys to the gate that leads to the other realm where what's his name? Dorgalua is supposed to be. That's what they're really here for. They don't want them to suspect, even though Zenobia is aware they took the sword. So I don't know what he's so concerned about. But anyway, we maintain a position of neutrality as before. We're the Dark Knights that led the van and Ryme equally neutral. Lancelot says, we're not infallible. There are always those who act impudently.
Yeah.
Vice says the Duke demands proof that you really mean what you're saying. What kind of proof? I'm glad you asked. And then it cuts away. And I don't think they ever asked or show what the proof was.
You know what?
I really wanted to know what the proof was.
I'm going to slip on over into this Discord here, because I just now realized too that even through chapter 4 and whatnot, I don't think you figure it out.
I don't know what proof you showed.
You know what though? This is my thinking. The proof is, the proof is, hey, meet with the Duke at a specific place at a specific time.
That could be it.
And then you can show it, and then that's where he wheels and deals and he gets the whole thing figured out to assassinate everybody.
Yes.
It could be that this...
Whatever.
But it's not the proof. It's just like he just has them set up a meeting. I guess,
Vice does say later to Ronway that he got Lancelot to agree to only bring 3 people as part of his personal envoy. Yeah, that's right. So that was, and Duke Ronway was super pleased about that. You served me super well. So you got Lancelot to agree to only show up with 3 dudes.
Yeah.
Maybe as a gesture of goodwill that we really do mean to be neutral in this. And then who knows, maybe Ronway was at that point planning to assassinate Lancelot like he was before, but then Vice turns it on everybody. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, that's the end of that scene. And then we come into Port Ashton, and this is where I liked the difference between how they wrote sort of the split between Kashua and Denim in this version versus the neutral version. Okay. Basically, we come into the middle of an argument between them. So this does a couple of things, especially the way that Canopus responds to it. He's really annoyed at this point. Right. He's super fed up with their bickering. Mm-hmm. So this sort of gives the impression that this argument has been going on for a long time. Okay. She has been on his case for a while, and he's been fighting back with her for a while about the fact that he continues to be involved in this war. We go back to chapter 1. She didn't want him to get involved at all. Right, yeah. It's please, and we know that they do a good job of reminding us of that in the, I don't know what you would call it, the ending that's not the princess ending. So in the endings in which Kashua dies and Denim is left at the end. Yes, he remembers those flashbacks. He's remembering her at the very beginning, pleading with him not to fight or get involved in this war. Yeah. So she didn't want him to do this at all. But not only has he done it, not only did he, win a battle or become the hero of Goliath, he continued all the way to the point where now he's leading this secondary resistance of Wallister against their resistance and the Galgastani and everybody else. So it's who's Sistina's people? The Liberation Front. The Liberation Front. There's so many different factions. Versions. Yeah, factions. Yeah. So she's fed up at this point. You haven't listened to me at any turn. Well, I'll just read what she says. Right. Because he's now planning to go and attack Caritinae, which is where the last of the Galgastani forces that still refuse to join with the Wallister are sort of hold up. They're led by Zabos. Yeah. So he's planning to go there and attack them, right? And she's saying, who better to profit from the ousting of Balbatos's men from Caritinae? So she's trying to convince him not to. This is stupid. Right. Why are you doing this? You're only going to help the Duke if you do this. And Canopus breaks in. Will you two stop this ceaseless bickering? My head rings like a church bell. And then she looks at him, glares at him. Oh, your look, Kashua, could singe the scales off a dragon. So she's been pissed for a while. So they've sort of set this stage to where this has been an ongoing argument, debate, fight between the brother and sister.
Yeah.
And so then she turns to Denim and says, so you'll have it your way or none at all, just like a child. And his response is basically like, you're calling me a child? I'm the only one here who thinks about someone other than myself. I think about my countrymen. I think about the people that are suffering in all of this. That Duke Ronway and Balbatos, all of this was just, fighting for power between the two of them. They don't care about the people. I care about the people. That's what I'm fighting for. Right. And you only care about you, And so anyway, she gets furious and stamps out. I would ask the same of you. Have you never considered, or because he says, have you never considered your countrymen? And she says, I'd ask the same of you. Have you never considered me?
Right.
And then storms out.
Yeah.
And Canopus, I feel like this happens like all the time in this game. Someone storms out, and let them go. Just let them go. It's like almost like a trope of like dialogue.
I see that all the time.
It's
You're
like,
right.
no, just let them go. Don't go after them. It's like, but why?
Well, that's Legolas and Gimli when Aragorn's like, then I shall die as one of them. And Gimli's like, let him go, lad.
Let him go, lad. Yes, it's that exact
that
thing.
happens all the time. Yeah.
Happens tons in this game.
Yes, and it's clearly a plot device. It's clearly we still want to make them seem like a good person, and so they want to go after him, but somebody else holds them back, and then they're still a good person too. And it's a way that everyone can maintain their good personness and have the scene also end on a very tense note.
All this is going to lead to something. It's foreshadowing a problem that you should settle now, but because you didn't.
Yes.
But
it's not that you didn't want to. Somebody else held you back.
The most egregious one of these in the whole game, which we didn't mention at the time, was, maybe we did, I can't remember, but when you choose neutral route to rejoin the Wallister, and Vice is like, I'll have no part of this, and he just runs away, and Lanar's like, let him go. I'm like, why?
Don't let him go. Go.
Why on earth would you let him go? That's crazy, dude.
That's pretty good.
That's crazy. No, don't worry about him right now. We're good. We got other things to do.
Yeah. Like what? That's hilarious.
Anyway, they do this a lot, where like someone storms out pissed, and they're like, just let him go.
Let him go, lad. Let him be.
Okay. Anyway, but they kind of get interrupted anyway because some headhunter comes after Denim, so you have your first battle of chapter 3.
And he's just shouting. Yeah.
So let's see. This is Ganon. There's not really much to say about this character.
No.
There is some interesting dialogue here, though, I think.
My next big note is with the woman. I can't remember her name.
Is it the one at Cretonai, Gildor?
Yes, Gildor.
Yeah, this was good. There's another fight in between there with a guy named Feltanor or something like that. Again, they're all kind of. It seems to get a little bit repetitive, the dialogue between like your enemies. You were the butcher of Goliath, and like, what have I told you I wasn't? And I wouldn't believe you, and actually these are my convictions. Those are just the fantasies of childhood or youth or whatever. And like, you don't understand the world. It's kind of just, they repeat a lot of the same sentiments beginning and end of battles between, but there's always that kind of debate or discussion at the beginning and end, or maybe even throughout these battles. But I think you're right. I think Gildora is the next most interesting one to talk about, because her hatred of the Wallister is like on another level.
It's ridiculous. And we met her in the neutral route, right?
I think we did.
And I don't remember this.
Because I remember Ivan bringing it up last week, and I don't remember if he was saying in response to it being in this route, or if it was... There's so many battles at this point that we've done that it's hard to remember which is which and which character showed up where. And wait, did it go this way in this route or the other route or whatever? But anyway, he brought that up. Ivan brought that up in response to a point that you had made about. Well, let's just read some of what she says. I think it's good stuff. So it seems that Sir Hector, who was the guy we executed as one of the first battles, I think, in Chapter 3, Neutral, with Lanar. In this route,
He's Nabeth's son-in-law?
Yes. I was kind of surprised about that.
Me too.
Yeah.
What in the world?
I was like, holy crap.
He seems noble. In fact, the Chaos route actually casts Nabeth in a much more sympathetic light.
Yeah, it does.
Than the neutral route did.
Yeah, it did. Because, I mean, you basically just just execute him in that.
Yeah,
it's basically the only role he plays. But he had gone away from Caritanai at this time, so Gildora and the army that she's with are kind of like reduced.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, crap, like the Duke has arrived already. She says he outpaces haste itself. They haven't returned yet. Hector, send word to the Lord Commander and rally whatever troops we can get, right? So the keep is weak at this time because it's not fully garrisoned.
Right.
So Denim showing up here at this time, she goes, oh, wait a minute, you're not with the Duke or whatever. Or I think he has to take some convincing at first to be like, I'm really, really not with them. Like, I actually hate him.
But I am Wallister.
Yeah. So what of it? You harbor no more love for us than they. We defend Galgastani honor to the last. And then Denim says, if you'll not listen to reason, perhaps your men will. You are defeated, routed by the Duke's armies, and yet you persist. Do you not see that this struggle leads nowhere? Or would you carry on the good Hierophant's work and rid the Isles of the Wallister? That's exactly what you want.
Yes, and she's like, oh, yeah, that one. The second one. Number 2.
You have us exact. We will fight until the seas run red with Wallister blood. And then Dem says, do you all share her bloodlust? Or he's not talking to her anymore. If we cross swords this day, the conflict will not end here. Those same swords will be taken up by your children and ours. Is that what you want? To me, it sounds a grievous error. So he's trying to plead to the idea of like this freaking blood war, this ethnic part of the conflict doesn't ever end. Right. And if I kill you, your son comes after me. And if you kill me, my son comes after you. All the stuff we've been talking about throughout.
And she's like, yes, like blank face, like Eric Cartman from South Park, just like, yeah, like just staring at you. And you're like, you're trying to be reasonable. And it's just like, do you really want that? And they're just like, yes.
Yep.
Oh, no, I have a better one. What's his name? Les Grossman.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's just like, yes, that is what I want.
Yes.
That movie's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
So she says, you appeal to the mind, but it is our hearts that move us. Wallister are less than filth, night soil to be cast in the gutter. That's freaking really strong.
Yeah.
We must rid the isles of your kind if there is ever to be peace. And Denim's response here is great. Once you've killed the last of us, who's next? The Bakram? Who will follow them? When the last of your enemies has fallen, what will stop you from turning against each other? Your desperate religions, customs, beliefs, fertile soil for dissent. Like, it doesn't stop here. Like, can you not see this yet? He has.
The only option is to be okay with living together with differences.
Yes.
Right? That's like the only option. Because even at some point, you're just going to have to decide to do that anyways.
Yes. There is no... I think the point here is there is no end in sight to the idea of I will get you back or serve justice for what you've done, and then there will be peace. This doesn't exist.
No. Everyone thinks it does, though.
No.
But it does not exist.
No, because then what you did has that must now be avenged, or due justice be awarded to you for what you did.
Yeah.
And it's a cycle, like we've been saying. That's really what the game is driving at. And, I don't want to hit too hard on it, but I think in this route, this conversation does a good job of bringing that sort of theme forward.
Yeah.
Right. And Denim has realized it and is ready in this route to let it go. Like, no more ethnic blood war. I'm done with that part of it. Like, we've got to, like you say, learn to live together with our differences, compromise. This is the only way for actual peace, not continuing to avenge each other to no end.
Did you know that in the 1800s, the Republicans and Democrats were the same party?
In the 1800s?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They were called the Democratic Republicans or the Republican Democrats. I can't remember which one. I think the Democratic Republicans is what they were called. That's actually that's what historians call them. They never called themselves that.
Oh, yeah.
But when you trace the lineage of the two current political parties back, they were the same party. They just were the party that won, So first they defeated the Federalists, and then the Whigs showed up, but they were never really serious. It was always the Republican Democrats, and Lincoln, as soon as Lincoln gets elected as the first Republican, other than that, then it was like the Democrats, and then the split becomes more apparent around like the mid-19th century, right?
Yeah.
But they were the same party. They won. They defeated the Federalists, and the Whigs were not like a big deal. So it's like, good job, we won. But what happens when they won?
Yeah.
Then they just split. Then they're like, inward. Well, the Democrats are, but the Republicans. And all of a sudden, before you know it, boom, the party that won just split in two. And now we have two. So you can imagine in modern politics, like let's say one of the parties defeats the other, like congrats, and like really, like not like just
there's
wins.
No more,
yeah, like
there's no more Republican Party.
Totally,
anymore.
With 10 elections straight,
and it just is.
Yes.
No one cares about
then the one that's left just splits, and then you somehow there will be a way in which there's a 50-50 split into which the special interests can leverage like their own, then that's like just like gonna happen. It's like a law of democracy.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Well, the way the Constitution's written at least. Because there are some places that have like multiple parties.
Right.
But the way that ours is written, it's like, hey, there's always got to be, it's going to be 50-50 no matter what at some point. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that is exactly what ends up happening if you take this approach.
Right. Because whoever wins, then you just keep dividing. Because you can infinitely keep dividing half and then half and then half that and then half that. You have to stop at some point. Why not just stop here now?
Yes.
Why not just stop now?
Yes.
Some people just can't do it.
Can't do it. And Gildor couldn't do it, so you kill her. Yep. And her last words are wallister filth.
Oh, gee, that's so rough. I remember that. That's so bad. Oh, jeez. She has just lost cause. Like, you just can't. There are some people cannot be reasoned with.
This is something that I want to bring up because there have been some comments about this, particularly last week, right? Like, hey, not all conflict is bad or like inevitable, or sometimes conflict is inevitable. Like, right, some people can't be reasoned with, and I wanted to, obviously, I think it goes without saying.
Yes,
the sentiments that I'm trying.
And that not
to
all
share,
conflict is bad.
No.
In fact, a great deal of it is not.
And again, I kind of felt like that goes without saying.
Yes, me too.
But maybe it doesn't, so I have to clarify that point. Obviously,
hashtag not all.
Not exactly. Hashtag
it's
not
like
all.
A joke on this podcast. Like every game, we have to do that for something.
First of all, I really do believe in healthy conflict. I think it's really important, particularly in business. Where you don't just surround yourself with yes men. It's a terrible idea. You want to put people around you who can see the holes in your logic and can sort of like, okay, maybe that's not the best idea, and check you a little bit.
And challenge you,
You need that. But this is something I thought about when I was at the gym yesterday. Conflict can be healthy.
Yeah.
But it rarely is because people have not been taught how to resolve conflict in a healthy way.
How would they learn that? I'm trying to think now. That probably was learned from kids just in the village.
I was just talking about
together,
this
right?
With Carol the other day. Yeah. I was like, conflict resolution should be a class in school for like little kids. Like healthy conflict resolution. I
think that's probably true, but I also think that kids will naturally learn to do that if you just like let them go out and play a lot together, like in a whole big group.
Well, you get a lot of bullying naturally that way. So
yes, that does happen.
I mean,
sure.
Lord of the Flies is
that's a risk. But I feel like a lot of interactions today among younger people is like you're on Call of Duty and you're just taking the piss out of whoever you're playing against, but there is no, I don't know. I wonder if people are playing in big groups outside in the whole neighborhood as much as they used to be, and that a lot of this conflict resolution stuff came a little bit more naturally back then than it does now in our current digital age and people going out.
I don't know. Because I feel like conflicts, bad, ugly, horrible conflicts have always been a part of human history. In fact, sometimes more savage than now. But
when you say a class at school, it just kind of makes me cringe because I'm like,
I know why you're saying that.
Okay.
But what I'm getting at is and this is kind of a pull again between two different philosophies on where certain things should be taught. Should they be taught in the home, or should they be taught at school,
or amongst the village, or in the school?
But the problem
There's a third one.
The problem is that most parents have not learned how to resolve conflicts themselves, and they are terrible examples of that in the home. So these children go home and their parents are fighting all the time, or they divorced several times in their life, and these children have to go through the trauma of that over and over and over again, and they take that example to school and to the kids around them. And so if 100%. You've got, I don't know what the number is, obviously, but I would guess, based on my observation of the society around me in the places I've lived, that it's probably something like 50-50, where you have parents that do at least a better than average job at teaching their kids how to like be reasonable people and not be jerks and stuff. And you have the other side of it, which these people come from broken homes themselves, and there's a whole cycle of abuse there.
There's a lot more broken homes now than there used to be.
And these children have no example in their life of how to handle their feelings and how to properly in a healthy way deal with those in their conflicts. And so, this leads to a society where no one seems to be able to talk to each other in a sane way about anything. Gosh.
The internet has exacerbated
and that's made it way worse.
100.
Way worse. Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, I threw the idea of a class in school, but the point isn't where. The point is doing it at a young age.
Yeah.
So that they see, here's how you're feeling, right? This is okay to feel like this, but if you act out like this, you have to understand that there are going to be consequences to that, and then this person's going to feel this way. And the only way that we can resolve is to realize these are just feelings that you're having. And when you're dealing with the feeling itself, it's really, really hard, but understand that you can cool down from that, and then you need to listen to people and realize we may not agree on everything, but it's better for us to be okay in our disagreements and tolerate than to lash out or put hands on somebody over this disagreement,
Well, there's a whole nother aspect to this that it's the media and the way that the media does not like to let people cool down and think rationally. No. The media loves to keep people upset and frustrated about whatever the current thing is. Yes. And then there's always a new thing, and the most dangerous thing to what some would term the establishment of like the administrative the powers that are in charge of the world is when people cool down and actually talk to each other and think rationally.
Right.
Some of this is intentional.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
That's crazy. But the way that you're explaining it, the way I hear it, I'm just like, that is clearly something that has to be done in the home by the parents.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that a lot of parents aren't doing it or don't know how, and that's like half the parents.
Yes.
And I agree with you. And well, if the parents aren't doing what parents ought to do, so what's the remedy? Like, what do you do now? Do you just let society fall apart because people don't know how to resolve conflict? Or is there some way you can intervene in a way? I don't know. And school might be the place to do it.
But turn a new generation into better or have a better ratio of people who are able to deal with their strong emotions and handle conflicts in a healthy way.
No one fears that more than the current news media.
Sure, 100%.
They're like, please don't, Mike. No, stop. Turn off Mike's mic. Turn it off. Don't listen to Mike. Be mad.
We've had conversations about this going back for years now, but about which industries should be allowed to be private or corporatized and seek profit over all that. And
there
which should
are some.
Not.
It's just
and
hard.
I think we both agree
there are a couple.
that news probably shouldn't be one of them. For this reason.
For profit news is such a problem.
We've also talked about health, and food industry.
And food and medicine and all that stuff. But news run by the government turns into propaganda. But when it's run by the corporations, it's still propaganda. It's just for the corporations. Yeah. So I think the best solution to that, I thought, about 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I was like, hey, the solution to this is private independent journalists on somewhere like Twitter.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking Twitter is an abomination that needs to die. And it's made everything worse. And so it's like, okay, so if the independent journalists can't do it and the corporate journalists can't do it and the state propagandists can't do it, how how do we get an informed populace in a democracy if none of the options are good?
Yeah.
And you cannot be informed as to what's happening in the world without one of those three. Unless there's a fourth one. Is there a fourth one?
I was watching something, don't remember what it was. It was pretty recently about the hurdles in evolution, right? Like, you gotta
the filters, the great filters, yeah.
And this might just be the one.
This might be a great social media.
Humans are not are not up to the task, dude. Like,
no, you're right. It's a rough one. I would err on independent journalists, but you can't credential them because they're independent. They're not part of some system, so you can't vet them because you don't know what's going on.
Well, you have to take. This is such a huge tangent.
I know, but it's interesting.
As long as making money is the goal or the reason for why you're doing it,
so
you're not going to get a solution.
You're right. You're gonna not report on certain things because your people don't want to hear it, and you're gonna over-report other things because that's what brings the money.
You're going to report on the things that generate the clicks and attention.
Yeah,
and that tends to be
rage.
The negative.
That's upset.
Side of news. So, yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Well, maybe next episode we'll solve this problem of the great filter.
Anyway, let's move on into Kryptonite here. Now there's a battle against Zybos.
Oh, Zybos, yeah.
Zybos is, I think...
He's way more interesting
one
in
of
this
the few characters, like, even Gildora, I can look at her and be like, she's just a severely misguided person.
Severely,
right?
Yeah.
But I don't see her as necessarily an evil person, but just so terribly, terribly indoctrinated and misguided her whole life. Zybos, I see as being an evil character, as well as Vice on these paths that we've taken. I don't know what he's going to be like in law. I'm actually very curious about that. But Zybos knows, I mean, he says straight up, like, if society is to be set up of the oppressed and the oppressors,
then
better to be the oppressors.
Yeah,
I mean, he straight out says it, right?
Yes.
Like, he's just a bad human being.
Yeah.
So, he calls you out. You're going to pay for the death of Gildora. Everyone's trying to get revenge on us for killing someone at this point. And clever ploy feigning to be at odds with the Duke. A deception worthy of Balmamusa. Now, I'm not with the Duke.
I know.
I'm not.
How many times? They don't care. They don't care. It's us versus them. You're a them. Then you're with, who cares which them? You're one of the them. I'm going to kill you. It doesn't matter. You're a them.
You're a they, dude.
Yeah.
You're in their tribe. How many have you slain to slake your own thirst? There is blood enough on all of our hands, boy. So I was a little confused about this because he's claiming Denim does have blood on his hands here. But then, like, the next time we fight him, he's like, oh, man, I know why the Duke hates you now. You have clean hands, and the people are going to turn to you.
Little does he know. Jeez, calling Denim clean hands. Now, Chaos Root, we have avoided 2 of the big hand-dirtying decisions, but I would never say Denim has clean hands at this point.
I guess it depends on if you're saying your hands are clean as far as killing people who are innocent or not involved,
who aren't trying to kill you.
Military targets.
Yes.
Right.
Which basically just means...
If that means your hands aren't dirty, then I guess you could say that. But yeah, he's killed a lot of people, so... I mean, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
So your hands have blood on them. They're just... It was the blood justified?
Yeah.
In the sense of the rules of engagement of war or whatever.
And if it's justified, then you have white hands. And it's true. According to the populace, they would see him as having cleaner hands. Yeah. It's all relative, right?
And so Zybos is saying, well, now I know why the Duke hates you. They're going to see him for what he is eventually, and they'll flock to you because you're this righteous savior figure. But
when they do that,
how long are you going to be able to keep your hands clean? But like here.
His contention is, you will not. It is not possible.
Not possible.
You cannot run a large political system and keep your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Not possible. Yeah. So your hands will get dirty, and when they do, the people will find out, and then down with you, up with the next clean hands guy.
A great example of that would be in Chapter 4, when you've more or less won, and they come to you, like your group of, advisors, and they're like, hey, a bunch of our soldiers are like pillaging and like taking women. I don't want to say the word because it'll probably get us censored, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
This is doing some really bad stuff.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? You need to make a choice between, do I punish these people now, or do we still got like another big battle ahead of us And I think one of those choices, maybe if Ivan is here, I don't know if he's here in the Discord. Or
He
whatever,
is, actually. He is.
If he could answer this, but I think one of those choices leads to whether or not you keep your allegiance with your factions to the point at where you'd get the assassination ending or not.
Oh, that's
so like if you choose to punish your own soldiers, this could lead you towards your assassination ending.
And that
right?
would make perfect sense.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what Zybos is essentially like getting at here.
Yeah.
You risk losing the allegiance of your soldiers and you get assassinated by keeping your hands clean, or at some point you turn the other way and let them do something horrible and you get your hands dirty to keep your power. And that's, I think, true. What he's saying is true.
It is 100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
in the scariest way.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Dude, I can't even imagine
do?
being in positions of power at this point.
I know, me neither. There's
no way to avoid
so easy
damning yourself.
Yeah. It's so easy to just critique, right? But to actually be in that position.
Yeah. So Zabos says here, even now you do the Duke's work, or hadn't you realized? Denim says the Duke gains nothing in your death. His head will be the next to fall after you.
Yep.
Zabos, oh, so it is power you seek after all, eh? You wear it well, but I see past the silks and baubles of your convictions. You would rule in the Duke's place. Hold up the mirror, and you will find him looking back at you. It is your own ambition you follow. And then Denim's response is really good, actually. I pity you. You look on the world and see only avarice and greed. And this kind of goes back to some of the stuff we discussed in Tolkien's Middle Earth universe.
I was thinking Tolkien.
I mean, this is the kind of the downfall of Sauron in Lord of the Rings, but it's also the downfall of Melkor / Morgoth in the Silmarillion is, and even a little bit of Manwë, because the other side just seems to think they must think like me, and this is what I would do if I were them.
Yes.
So there's no way they're going to try to destroy this ring. They're just going to take it to Minas Tirith and try to use it against me.
Because they're playing the same game I'm playing, because they're as greedy as I am, and we're all just greedy, and nobody would just take it into Mordor. That'd be stupid. So they're not going to do that. And it's like they're playing a whole different game he didn't even realize.
Yeah, and he's surprised.
And Manwë with Melkor is the same thing.
He's my brother, and he doesn't have the mind of an evil person, so he can't comprehend that this person would be going to these lengths to deceive him.
Yeah, purposely.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Like, this is why it's really, really difficult to maintain a balance of being truly steps ahead of your enemies.
Yeah.
Because you need to think like your enemies. But in order to think like your enemies, it takes
one to know one.
Yes, a little bit. To some degree. You have to come down off of that perch of righteousness in order to even like really get how they think. And so it's just messy. War is just purely messy. There is no way you're coming out of this with clean hands, is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Right.
Ivan says, the choice ruins your reputation with the Galgistan and Wallister if you stop the pillaging, but if you allow it, it ruins your reputation with Bakram. So
either way,
it is reputation management.
You're lowering.
Right, but this is the point. You're managing your filthy hands. You're not like washing them. You
use this hand
just manage
to clean that and dirty it in the process.
Is that what Denethor said? With the one hand you would, and then with the other you would seek to supplant me. It's like you get one dirty hand and then one clean hand, which actually is a medieval idea, right?
Yeah,
the left hand is dirty, the right hand's clean.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Okay. After that battle, we move into Kryptonite Ward. Is this where... No, we just did that one. The Kryptonite Keep. Did we get... I don't think we've talked about the cutscene with Zabos. Oh, because they haven't fled to...
Nabeth comes later.
Nabeth is later, because they go to the next castle.
That one's going to be fun to talk about.
So you get inside the Kryptonite Keep. I had forgotten to bring up that I think they had been holding prisoners here, right? The prisoner here informs us of the prisoners in Brigantis.
Oh, that's right, because we get somebody to kind of like... Does he switch sides? Is that more or less what happens?
I think he was just a prisoner in the keep and we freed him.
Okay,
but he was a Galgastani soldier.
He is from that side,
Yes. So Denim says Zybos has fled to Brigantis then, and the prisoner says, no doubt about it, my lord. Denim says, I've heard the castle stands empty. Its lord lost to the war. The prisoner says, in truth, no. As Critini sat invested, another force was to lay siege to Brigantis. The attack at Critini was only a feint to lure out the Duke's armies. The resistance would march unwitting into a trap, then the greater force of Brigantis falls upon them to deliver the coup de grace. Your arrival, however, has left the plan in tatters. So, essentially, Kashua was right. He's actually helped the Duke more than even he thought he was. Not only by attacking Zybos, but by ruining the trap Zybos had set for Ronway to come and attack Critini.
Yep.
So,
and Denim doesn't take time to reflect on that. He just kind of moves on like, okay, so now what? Like, oh, man.
The man's mad, right?
Yeah.
A foul business, my lord. I wanted no part of it, which is why he was a prisoner. Yeah. Denim says, I thank you for your candor. I will leave for Brigantis at once. You've a noble heart, my lord. And he says, noble. I wonder. Double. Yeah. Denim's reflecting a little bit. There's more to nobility than blood, my lord.
You know, the word for noble in Middle English is gentle. It's
really?
the word, and the word gentleman technically comes from an old word for nobleman.
Nobleman.
But the way that those words, and genteel, you can kind of see it there a little bit, but the way those words kind of separated a little bit over time and have different meanings now, but they come etymologically from a similar place. That noble and gentle is like a similar type of word.
As I've studied Portuguese, I've seen that so much. Like, I just saw a meme today where, which word was it? It was hold on. I think I sent, I don't know why I'm like bothering to talk about this. It's not that important, but it's just fun to like see the way certain words. Oh, the word is contrario.
Contrario.
Right? Which means opposite, more like opposite.
Yeah.
Like to the contrary.
Contrary,
right?
yeah.
So the word contrary in English is a little different, but it's from the same root.
Which contra, right?
Yeah.
Against.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. Love that stuff.
It's fun. It's really fun to see how certain prefixes and suffixes over time change between what was once a common root language or whatever.
And as Tolkien says, language is mythology, and mythology is language.
Yeah.
Each word has like a story behind it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And as you've learned that story, you just use the words without thinking about it. But as you learn the story, you start to realize just the depth of language. And just like, it's so cool.
It's a lot of fun to study.
Yeah, it's
a lot of fun.
So this is where, at the end of this,
Kashua,
is where Kashua's like, I'm leaving. I'm going back to Goliath. You know, you can.
So it was really
here.
interesting because this scene is almost the same as the version we got in Neutral. But there's one key difference that for me helps it land better. It's just one difference. And that is that in this version, she, instead of saying, you will abandon me as you abandoned Vice.
Yeah.
Which to me was just like, okay, why are you on Vice's
I don't think
side
she
in
brings
all this?
Vice up in this one.
No,
right?
she doesn't.
Yeah.
She says,
Smart move.
You love your war
Yes.
more than me. And just that one change made this all work for me in this chaos version of their split.
Yeah.
I think they set it up well with the first scene in Port Ashton where they've been bickering and arguing, and she tries to keep convincing him not to do this, and from the beginning has been trying to tell him not to get involved in the war. I'm going to lose you if you get... And so...
Yeah.
But it also made me think of another thing, even in the neutral route, because I was just confused the whole time about why she's accusing him that he's going to leave her.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that, because you only really get this in Chapter 4 near the end of the game, it was because she doesn't fight with you in Chapter 3. You're at Almorica with Ronway.
Oh, you're right.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
And he sends you off to do stuff, and she never comes with you. But they didn't have a scene where he said, no, sister. It would have worked if there was just one little quick scene where it's just like, okay, we're packing up to go.
I know what should have happened. Denim leaves to go to war, and Kashua is about to go.
And he tells him no.
But then, no, not him. But then Leonard says, let him go. Let him go, miss. Let him be. Let him go. And that's what's missing.
That would have smoothed the whole thing over.
It would have smoothed the whole thing over.
No, but had there been a scene where she was prepping to go with him to a battle, and he's like, you can't come with me anymore. I'm not letting you. Yeah. And his rationale is, I don't want you to die in battle.
Right.
But she's seeing it as, you don't want me around anymore. I'm a nuisance to you because I bring up counterpoints to you, and you don't want somebody who's checking you anymore. You're just surrounding yourself with your yes men and fighting your war, and you don't listen to me.
And she might not be wrong about that, is the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because that scene wasn't there, I didn't quite catch that that's what she was talking about. She was talking about the fact that he keeps leaving to go to battles, and she stays at Almorica in neutral.
Just waiting for him,
And so she's considering that an abandonment. So now that makes more sense to me, is what I'm getting at. But I still like this version better because she, left to Goliath or whatever, or took, I guess not because she's with us here. But anyway, she's not participating in the battles.
After this, she leaves to Goliath.
Yeah, after this, she decides, I'm going back to Goliath, and he just lets her go because it's true. The war he's fighting is more important than being with his sister.
And he can't,
she's right about
stop.
That. Yes. Yeah. And so it works. It really, really worked. Like just the scenes, the way they're laid out, the way it's written, and just this one change in wording here, again, I feel like, and I'm not, Ivan, I know is here, so I'm by no means putting any blame on him or anything like that for how he structured it. I think the way we've gone about it has been fine. And I'm not one of those people where it's like, oh, but my first impression of the game in the first run was this and that ruined my experience or anything like that. That's not the way I look at it. So going through it this way, I would have played Chaos Route as my first playthrough had I done this just on my own.
Yeah, me too, bro.
And every part of the story would have really worked for me. So I really like Chaos Route. There's two things I'm going to pick at a little bit later, but they're not massive, huge deals or anything. But I really like I guess my point is just to round this off.
It flows.
It flows, and it felt very natural.
The
split here versus the neutral route one. But anyway, she takes off the Goliath, and then the scene between her and Lancelot is more or less the same. It just happens in Goliath instead of in Almorica.
You know, my Denim's answer for me, because you have an option here. You can either say you're being selfish, or you can say what.
Pull it up.
It's different text, but what he ends up saying when you pick it, in Mass Effect, you pick a thing, and then he rewords the thing each time, and it's like, wait, that's not what I thought you were going to say. Okay, so you pick the first option.
The first one is your first choice is, so you're just going to leave me.
You're just going to leave
me. And she's like, no, it was you who abandoned me.
But he says, so you abandoned me, is what he says.
Yeah, then you abandoned me.
And she's like, no, you did the thing. Don't turn this around. You abandoned me. And that was an interesting, because I picked so you're just going to leave, right? Okay, right. Like, she shouldn't do it. But then he threw out the abandon word, which I wasn't expecting. And I thought, this might get Kashua to stay. It doesn't.
No.
But I felt like it was probably a better thing to say than the selfish line.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I'm actually real glad you brought up that he used the word abandon there.
Abandon.
Because from a certain point of view, his point of view, from his point of view, she is abandoning him. Because as far as he's concerned, I've been with you this whole time. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And now you're leaving me.
Right.
You're the one really actually leaving.
Yes.
But he's only considered what she sees as leaving her being, I'm going to go fight this battle and come back.
Yeah.
He doesn't see that as an abandonment. He just sees that as, you stay here and be safe. I'll be back after the battle's over.
Yeah.
She sees this as a continual chance of being left alone if he falls in that battle. He's abandoning me over and over and over again. And I'm sick of being abandoned.
I kind of have an analogy here. Maybe this can help some people out in the world. But this is similar. You can imagine this, right? Imagine a guy playing video games and his girlfriend is like, they're on the couch, and she's like, you don't spend any time with me. And he's saying, what do you mean? We're spending time together right now.
Yes.
Like, we're in the same room together, so it counts, right? And he's just playing a video game, right?
Yeah.
And she's just like sitting alone. And after a few weeks, she is like, hey, I'm going to break up with you, right? Because you don't pay attention to me. And he's like, what are you talking about? You're leaving me. You're the one leaving me now, because you're actually, I was in the same room with you. I didn't leave you, but now you're leaving me. So it's like a different definition, almost a kind of like a male-female dichotomy here between what she considers as abandonment versus what he considers. For him, abandonment is like literally like physically moving away, but what she considers it is, you don't think about me anymore.
Yes,
that's what she thinks abandonment is.
That's a great
and
point.
I love that, actually. I love the subtle differences between the masculine and feminine approach to these things.
Yes.
And it's just, and it's so obvious. It happens all the time in relationships that we just miss each other a lot. And I just don't think the way that you think, and you don't think the way I think. And so, but neither of us are being malicious, but it happens anyways, right? Things deteriorate and fall apart, even though both sides don't want them to. And then, you're just kind of left wondering what happened in the end.
Yeah. That's actually a really brilliant point.
In that sense, this plays out very well.
It's just the way that they're thinking about abandonment.
Yeah.
And to her, you don't have to physically leave my presence for some permanent period of time or something like that.
It's just that your mind is elsewhere.
You think more about the war and your duty to that and your countrymen and anything else that's not me.
Yes.
That's way more important to you. That is also an abandonment.
Right.
It's a emotional or what else
mental,
would you call
spiritual,
it? It's a different definition of abandonment, but it is still an abandonment.
And once again, if we're going to say language is mythology, the mythology of the word abandon is different. For different people, right?
Yes.
What the deepness, what that word is saying.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So it was really good. Even though the scene is virtually identical.
Yes. It hits differently.
It hits a little differently for me, and I think it really works here. Yeah. Now we're heading towards Brigantis. And this is where I was actually a little bit surprised by where the story went, because I guess in Neutral Route, I didn't necessarily put together that Nabeth was a Galgastani and had favor like high up.
Yeah.
Maybe even with Balbatos himself, but at least with Zybos, who's the second in command.
Yeah. Zybos clearly was differential to him.
Like, it's almost as if they had almost appointed or had been supporting Nabeth's research as some means of cheating death high in the courts of Galgastan.
Right.
So they treat him with like this reverence and respect, Zybos does. They keep fighting to try to like protect him or give him time to leave and continue his research.
They're willing to die for him.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what's going on here. Nabeth is in Brigantis, and this is where the last of the sort of remaining faithful, loyal Galgastani force is at.
Yeah.
So you're going to come across Cassandra and Cressida again.
And Hector.
And Zybos and Nabeth all through this kind of run of battles here. The Cressida-Cassandra first battle is pretty similar to, but in a different place. This is Brigantis instead of on that island way somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me, though. Like, is it just the fact that, I guess it would be, it's just the fact that we chose to go a different route, so we fought some different battles, which pushed Nabeth that way instead of where he was over here.
Yeah.
And so we just never encountered him with the other Galgastani. I guess in the beginning of the Neutral Route, they do say that Ronway basically totally routed Galgastan.
Yeah. It just took over.
Anyway, so that one difference, the wheel turned a different way. Someone we'll get to a little later with the wheel.
But, very interesting.
Because you use the wheel to jump between routes here in the Reborn version. So you don't have to actually start an entirely new file. You can use the Wheel of Fortune to jump to another point of check. It's
a new life.
Yeah,
right. It's what is it? You can think of it in terms of like a multiverse thing, and you can go back and relive a new life, making different decisions this time.
Right. Yeah. So you can go back to different checkpoints and make different choices with this wheel instead of like having to start an entirely new file all over again. And I think anyway, we'll go over wheel a little bit later. I was actually curious because they use this term all the time. What you would take from how that would work into their mythology. And
we'll get into it. Yeah. I've got some. I've basic, but I do have some notes there.
Okay,
that's right.
So Moldova, who was the battle right before Nabeth in Chapter 1, the first time we fought Nabeth. Moldova was one of his daughters.
Yeah.
Is it not Cressida? Cressida's his wife, or is it
Cressida?
Cressida? No, it is Cressida.
The daughter.
Cressida's the daughter,
and then
Cassandra is the wife.
Is the mother? Yeah.
Or the mother. Yeah, and then of course the other two children, which we got in Neutral Route that were against him. Not Ovelia.
And then Divold.
And Divold.
Yeah.
Anyway, this whole family is huge.
Yeah.
And So Hector comes in, who was the husband of Moldova, and convinces her not to stay, convinces her to leave. I'm trying to buy time for you to reunite. Nabeth wants you to come back. And here's the thing that's weird about this family dynamic. Everybody except Nabeth is willing to die. And that's a little bit weird considering they're all necromancers.
They bring it up too, because Cressida even says at some point, she's like, let's see this through to the end, to our end.
Yeah.
What is our purpose if not this? And he's like, us end? Actually, we're going to leave and, like, we don't have to die.
The whole point is that we're trying to cheat death. Our research is an attempt to cheat death. What are you talking about?
He's like, I will sacrifice everyone in the world for my research,
to save my...
I'm not going to die for something.
I'm here to live an eternal life. How do you not know this yet? It came across a little weird to me.
Pretty interesting.
That Cressida's attitude was what it was, being the daughter of Nabeth, being aligned with him, knowing about his research.
Let us die, it shall be a glorious death, and what meaning and purpose death will give us.
Yeah, it was weird.
And it's like, wait, do you know what he's doing? Because he doesn't feel the same way as you. He thinks death does not have meaning or purpose, and that it can be avoided altogether.
I can see how she would be more loyal to her country.
Oh, right.
And maybe
she cares
that's
about that.
what's driving her.
Right.
And she's disappointed that he's not.
And he's totally away from that game.
It just seems weird that she would not only grow up with this man, but know and be involved in his research and life and know what his convictions are, I would assume. And then ask him a question like that. What purpose is there other than to die for our country?
To live
My
forever.
whole point has been to live forever.
Yeah, to just not to die.
Yeah.
I don't care about my country. I just don't want to die.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that part of it was kind of weird. But she leaves, and I did like some of Hector's dialogue with Denim in this fight.
Yeah.
Like, his deal is basically, look, I didn't love having to do the things Balbatos made us do.
Right.
Like, understand. Like, not all of us were...
Hashtag not all.
Not all of us liked doing this.
Yes,
but
that always works.
My honor as a knight mandated that I do it.
Right. Yeah.
That's hard for me.
I don't know. You take an oath. When you swear an oath, I mean, you give your allegiance. That meant a lot in the olden times,
I know, but is that more important than... The other oath you take as a knight is to defend the freaking people, right?
Oh, good point.
So be as a shield to the people, to serve the people.
Yeah.
And if your liege lord
when do they come in conflict?
Abusing that, which part of the oath is more important?
That's interesting. I hear a lot of time, like in modern days, police officers will do things that are unconstitutional because they were told to do it by their superior. But they took an oath not just to follow their superior, but also to uphold the laws of the land, which includes the Constitution.
Yes.
And in which case, you just kind of got to pick, I guess. I don't know. There was that whole, what was it? What's the word for it? The Nuremberg trials, right, after World War II, where it was determined, hey, you Nazi guys had a duty to carry out your superior's orders, but also you have a moral duty to something higher than you to not do it if it's bad.
Yes.
And that was the determination from the Nuremberg trials, was basically a declaration that there are some things that ought never be trampled upon, and that you did it. And so, fair enough. That's a long argument.
I feel no sympathy for Hector here. He's just like...
Yeah, it's not a good argument to say that.
It's not at all. It's like, I had to do it. I swore an oath.
They told me. It's like...
I'm loyal.
It's passing the buck.
It's just a cop-out.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
I'm not into it. I don't buy his argument at all, but I don't know. Maybe there's... I don't know. Anyway.
Either way, he does make Nabeth seem more sympathetic.
Yeah.
As does...
Did you have a note on that? Because you were talking about that a little earlier with Hector.
It comes more later with the other guy, Zybos.
Oh. Right.
But just the fact that these people are willing to die for him. We didn't see that. I didn't see that much before. I just saw him being crazy, and every now and then, his sister, his apprentices were crazy with him, and then his own family turned on him, and that's all I really saw.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing the people who really side with him, who are normal people, not like zombies, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
I was not expecting him to have this much pull in Galgastan.
Yeah.
I thought he was just this rogue weirdo who was out here like doing zombie experiments. And like, yeah, like you said, like he has a crazy family. I didn't realize he legitimately has respect and like rank and pull in the kingdom of Galgastan. I was like, what the fetch? I did not get that from Neutral Route at all. So I was surprised. But I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I actually think it's kind of interesting because, like Zybos even, when you get all the way in is like, no, this research you're doing is like so important. It'll be like the legacy of Galgastan, and like you've got to like keep it going.
And we will die so that others may live. Like that's the whole
crazy.
And in some weird way, that's like a noble death. That Zybos is like, is he's sacrificing himself for something greater. Well, Nabeth won't do it, but I guess he thinks he's the only one smart enough to do what he's done.
I'm the only one who can do this.
I'm the only one. When you think you're that special, you might start doing some crazy stuff. But other people think he's special too, right? And they're willing to die for this thing. And I keep thinking, maybe they're willing to die because then somehow Nabeth can bring them back to life after they die if things work out well. Whereas if they let him die, then when they die, it's over forever. Yeah. I don't know his power to bring people back after they've been dead for a while. I don't know about that.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's not the case. I'm pretty sure he comes to the conclusion, well, his research is not done anyways. He never had a successful... Yeah. But I think the conclusion he came to in Neutral Route with Gildas was like, you've got to do it like really quickly. Yeah. After they die, you can't let the flesh can't be left to. I don't know what word he used, sour or whatever.
Atrophy. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Otherwise, it won't work. But
then the fact that Zybos even knew what he was up to, I found that fascinating on its own. Yeah. So that's about all I really have.
And so then you fight Zybos again, kill him. We already kind of talked about some of the dialogue they had earlier, but there's this scene in Ryme between Branton and another Dark Knight that we didn't really meet on the Neutral Route. He was kind of just there in Chapter 4 all of a sudden. It was like, who's this guy? Volok.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is apparently kind of like with Branton. Like, I don't know, maybe somebody who's serving as like the advisor or envoy on behalf of the Dark Knights in Bakram. So like while Lancelot and the other Dark Knights go do their missions or their thing, which is to find the sword and the princess, Volok is kind of like advising Branton.
Yeah.
And so...
this is where we see the Vice scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was interesting.
So Branton says this defies all reason, and then a knight reporting, there's no mistake. The host at Almorica took no part in the siege of Caritanite. So they're basically saying the hero of Goliath is like doing a lot of crazy stuff right now. Right. That wasn't the Duke who did that to the remnants of Galgastan. That was Denim. And so Brandon's like, then Ronway will have no choice but dispatch his own men to assault the castle or take Caritanite back from Denim. He'll send Sir Leonard. None other can take the field against the hero of Goliath. Right. So he's going to be temporarily here probably a little bit weak because he has to go deal with Denim now.
Yeah.
A keen insight, my lord. And then Brandon says, very well, assemble a force 5,000 strong from our armies here at Ryme. So he's getting ready to invade and attack Almorica at this point. And Volok tries to tell him not to do that.
I like that we do get some dialogue about the size of the armies here.
Yes.
Because it's easy to just think that every army is like 8 people. That's, oh no, you beat my army. Oh, we don't have enough people to defend the keep. It's like, once again, this is an abstraction. There are thousands of people. We're just seeing, the leaders and the noble or the heroes of battle and not necessarily the foot soldiers.
I kind of like the way it was done in one of the recent Fire Emblem games. The last one I played, I think, with 3 houses, but where in like the upper view, they're represented by a single unit. Yeah. But then like when they actually meet, it zooms down to the level and there's actually a whole brigade or a whole squadron or something like that, a whole unit with that one commander, right? So when you see it, when it's presented in that way, it actually does feel like larger battles than typically these old school RPGs feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing too that I like about this number, specifically 5,000, is, we grew up with Lord of the Rings and stuff. They describe armies the size of 200,000 in the battle against Minas Tirith, right?
That's right.
And so I guess I kind of got this thought that like, oh, this is like the number of soldiers that would fight in these medieval. No, like
that was massive.
No.
For even yes, it was way less.
Usually skirmishes were much smaller than that.
Yeah.
So 5,000 would have been a really large force, like really large,
even
force.
For that time,
for that
or
time.
for that time,
for a medieval sort of battle. Yeah. An army of 5,000 people was freaking massive.
Right.
So anyway, so he's sending them out, but Volok tries to stop him. I trust you've not forgotten your arrangement with the High Champion, with Lancelot. An arrangement with certain obligations. I must ask that you refrain from making any rash moves. So he's like, don't do this. This helps a little bit with the scene in chapter 4 where like Lancelot comes in and announces basically like, we're peacing out. And Brent's like, how are you going to do this? You like freaking promised me all this. Like, you didn't do anything we said. We gave you all this advice all the time and you always didn't do it.
Yep.
This is one example of that. So Volok is trying to like get him not to be an idiot. And he's like, obligations, you say? As I recall, you are obliged to grant me whatever aid I require to wrest control of these isles. Yet here I sit waiting while you lecture me about my obligations.
That's it. Here I sit waiting. He's expecting everyone to do it for him.
Yes.
When they say, oh, we will give you aid, he's like, okay, aid me. Go fight my battles for me. It's like, no, we'll give you aid. You still have to do it. You still have to fight. You're the one who's going to allocate resources. We'll give you the we're not going to fight the war for you, right? Especially if it's the Dark Knights. They got to be neutral.
Yeah.
Like we're going to help you.
Yeah.
And he's refusing to take any.
We send you weapons and money.
Yeah.
We don't put boots on the ground and fight your war.
We're not going to direct it for you.
Yeah. So Volok tries to get him to calm down. Stay your anger, Lord Regent. I meant only to suggest that provoking Almorica might not be the wisest course. Have patience and you'll see. Brandon's like, to hell with your patience. And your counsel. You there. Go. See that my orders are carried out. And then this is where Vice comes in.
Yep.
And
the way he walks in here is really something.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's claiming to be an envoy from Almorica. It just come right at the right time, right? When there's some tension between, like, you're not doing the thing I brought you here to do, but we weren't brought here to do that. Yeah. So there's a rift beginning to open between the Knights of Lotus and Branton. And so Vice kind of steps in to sort of like put a further wedge between that rift between them. Are you the regent? Why do you hesitate, sword? Says Volok, and all the soldiers come around. He's like, hold on.
Because nobody was going to defend him.
You're not going to kill the messenger before you heard the message, would you? And Branton likes his boldness, right? Like, go ahead, like, speak. I knew you'd listen to reason, says Vice. Besides, I think you're going to like what you hear. And Volok tries to cut in. You're from Almorica? Who are you? And he's like, an upstanding member of the resistance, naturally. And then he says this to Branton, my lord, I don't suppose you'd send away the old man, would you? Delicate business, this.
Can you can you get these other people out? But the other knights stay, right?
Yeah, so the Knights of Bakram stay, but he just wants Lotus to not hear this.
Yes,
He doesn't want anyone in Lotus to know what they're talking about. And Branton, again, boldness bordering on insolence, a rare breed. He likes it. Go on, leave us, Volok. This is not for Lodician ears. And then you may speak, and Vice says, right then. So this is where Vice makes his move to where I've got Runway and Lancelot meeting together with a very small group of people.
Yeah.
This is our time to strike them. So he's making a deal with Branton so that he can take over Almorica.
Right.
And Branton can get rid of these Dark Knights or whatever. So this is where they make their plan for those assassinations. Okay. And then we go to... There's another battle here I don't think we need to talk about.
Back to Nabeth, and we kind of already talked about that.
We already talked about Nabeth.
Hobbyrim's my next note.
Because then after...
The way you pick them up here is
after you defeat the Golgostani at Brigantis... Oh, yeah, Hobbyrim. You're right.
Yeah.
So it's the Bahana Highlands. There's these guys that are chasing Hobbyrim, who is the brother of Balsfos, the blind swordsman. So you recruit him in a different way. But I kind of liked this one.
Yeah,
they're
this
like
was good.
these ninjas like surround him.
Yeah.
And they like attack him and he just like steps out of the way.
Yeah, he sidesteps and then kills. Yeah, it was like super fast.
So you fight a little battle. You
Yeah.
recruit Hogrim here instead of in the different ways you could do it in the neutral route. And then you go back to Almorica Castle with Ronway and Vice. Ronway is super pleased at Vice's work at having set up what he did. So he says, I'm told Tartaros has accepted our proposal. Vice says he has. We're to meet at the cathedral in Ryme at the time of our choosing. He even agreed to limit our escorts to 3 men apiece. So Ronway is super happy about that. Another knight says, "What can the Dark Knights be trusted?" He just asks a question. And Vice is like, "Oh, you should have your tongue out for that. You dare to question me?" I freaking hate Vice, dude.
Yeah.
Vice sucks.
He's bad.
And then Ronway stands up. You squabble like children. Like, shut the fetch up.
Yeah.
The Dark Knights will honor their agreement. And they know full well the Bakram cannot stand against us with the Galgastani gun. So he's assuming that now that Galgastan's been defeated, that the Knights of Lotus are going to realize Bakram is not going to win a war against Almorica or against the Wallister at this point. So they'll abandon them, is what Ronway's thinking.
Yeah.
We need only maintain the deception until Brant... Okay, so... sorry, there's another character that says, if the commons learn of this pact with the Dark Knights, it will not go well for us.
Yeah.
And Ronway says, we need only maintain the deception until Branton falls. So he's planning to betray Lancelot as
clearly.
well.
Yeah.
But they just need to hold out until Branton falls. That's it. His claim to power rests on the young heir of House Eltonog. Without the boy, Branton is nothing. So Branton is sort of like a regent who is in this position where until this boy comes of age, like I rule kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, he's just saying if that kid's not around, then Branton has no power, right? So that's what he's after. The Dark Knight... Okay, then it says, once we have restored peace to the Isles, the Dark Knights will have no choice but to return to Lotus. Vice... doesn't say anything. Ronway, I know you've only just returned, but I'm afraid there's no time to rest. We must inform Tartaros of the time of the meeting. Fetch me a quill and parchment. So they're getting ready to have this meeting. Now we got to go back to Caritanai and take it again. Because since we left Caritanai to go take Brigantis, the freaking Almoricans came in and took it. So you got to fight with this guy, Marino. Dan Marino comes to fight us. Dan
Marino. Love it. Classic.
I don't think there's much that I have as far as notes in that battle. It's just kind of a...
No, I just up to Leonar.
Leonar is there, though.
My next thing.
Yeah, you go into the keep. Leonar is there. And this, you can choose to either duel him one-on-one.
Yeah, this was interesting.
I did think this was interesting. Or this fight's not ours alone, and we have our armies fight each other. But I chose the duel, just the one-on-one fight. I'm assuming you did the same.
Yeah.
So Leonard tries to appeal to us. It's been a long time, Denim. Tell me, do you still cling to hope, or has despair taken its place? Even now there is a place for you in the Resistance, you know. You defeated High Commander Zabos. With such a fine trophy as that, none would gainsay your return. You know, we remember back to the end of Chapter 2, he had tried to convince Denim to do that then. And he had... So if you choose to go back with him, he says, let him go when Vice leaves. If you choose not to and we go, he tells Vice, let him go.
That's
like,
funny.
But he was basically saying, just hold on. There's still a chance we can get Denim to join with us to be a powerful ally kind of thing. So he's been kind of holding out to this point. Have you seen Sense yet? Like,
yeah,
it sucks being an outlaw. Are you ready to come back? Denim says, no way. That's not why I fought, Sir Zabos. You of all people should know who started this war. There's no place in the Resistance for me or for you, for that matter.
Yeah.
And Leonard says a vast gulf spreads between what is and what might be. Someone must span this divide. So, well, let me just finish this part of it. The wheel has turned. Our fate was decided the moment you stood before me. You crave the light, but I am content to dwell in the dark and drink deep of blood. Draw your sword, we decide this now, just you and I. So you can choose to duel him. That's what I did. Now, you can... I didn't realize this, but there's actually... I guess if you decide to fight him as an army, that Donalto will have some words with Leonard, which actually would make sense because Donalto was once allied with Leonard.
Is it worth killing more people so that you can hear an extra bit of dialogue?
I don't know, because he says things. So Donalto apparently in this direction would say things like, "After all you've seen, how can you still follow the Duke? The poor starve, the nobility grow fat." Leonard says,
That is ever true.
"Have the years robbed you of your wits, Abuna? Easy enough to talk about lofty ideals, but who has come closer than the Duke to making them reality? The journey is a difficult one, and any who tell you otherwise deceive you with fairy tales." So anyway, it's still a similar idea, and I think that's what's important to focus on rather than like all the different words.
Yeah.
Either way, it's either Donalto talking to him or it's going to be Denim in the one-on-one fight. And in both ways, Leonard comes across as very convinced that even though this is the darker way or the dark road to it, it is worth doing because this is the only future for the wallister. Right. And if I had to kill you 1,000 times to secure the future of wallister, I would do it. Like, that is more important. The ends are justified by the means is the whole context of his responses to either Denim or Donalto.
Yeah.
So, okay, I see where he stands on that. He can't be reasoned with, and, like, this is inevitable. But then when you actually kill him, he like totally reverses like philosophical course.
And then he even tells us, like, he gives us extra info. He's like, "Hey, I'm actually rooting for you the whole time. You're the only hope." And see you later. I was not expecting that at all. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah,
really?
I didn't love this.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's actually some RSL dialogue here too. That would have been nice to see.
Oh, that's right.
They were once in a relationship.
Yeah.
She says things like, well, she's mad because her brother was killed at Balamusa.
Yeah, yep.
"You're dead to me. You deserve no fate better than the Duke's. How could you, Leonard?" And she also says, "I don't understand. You were a good man once, a kind man, and just I loved you. How did you fall so low? All I can do is avenge my brother on you, avenge all who died at Balamusa. Tell me one thing, Leonard. If I do not survive this day, I would know the truth before I die. We shared a home and a bed. Would you never have told me what you had done?" And he says, "I would have told you everything when the time was right, when the war was over." Okay, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
In this other way, he basically just says, like, he tells you the Duke is crazy. He's going to sell the islands to Lotus, and his prize will be that he gets to be the regent or the ruler or whatever, and all this stuff. So it's like he knew all of this, and that this wasn't the real future of the wallister.
And it was not going to secure the future for the wallister.
It just came across like it doesn't feel like the character I was just talking to 5 minutes ago.
No, not even
He's
close.
a different person now than he was then.
Yeah.
Like, he talked as if, no, the ends justify the means, but then he's talking about these ends aren't even what I was wanting.
And he knew the whole time.
Yeah. And he still did it anyway. Like,
you know, every now and then we come across a situation similar to this where it's like there's two people, only one can win. Whoever wins is going to be in charge. And then it's like, okay, we'll fight each other. And then whoever dies is like, okay, if I have to die, then I'm glad you're the one that can lead. I've seen that in stories, right? Like, if I'm going to die anyways, okay, fine. Like, go, be a good leader and be good to the people. But this is different from that.
It's so different.
This is so different. This is like, not even, I'm just doing what they told me, and neither of us are going to, like, it doesn't make a difference much whether we die or not. It's not like I'm going to take your spot or anything like that. So it's just like, I really, truly believe this. Yeah. And then he dies, and he's like, I really, truly do not believe that. And then he dies, and then it's over.
It's like, I see you as being like the great hope for, like, the wallister, and like,
against the Duke. Don't let the Duke.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm giving you this information because I know you're like the last hope to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But then why didn't you just freaking join me?
Right.
Like, why?
Seriously.
If that's what you really believed, then why were you fighting me at all? Yeah. It does not connect. What he states as his motivation here versus what he reveals to be what he really thinks do not make any sense to me. They don't,
and it also doesn't make sense for him to be lying. It just doesn't make sense.
It's weird.
Yeah.
This is the one big criticism I have with Chaos Route is Leonar's end. I thought the Leonar's end in Neutral was way better. Where he kind of became the leader of the Wallister after Ronway died, and then he like gets killed by Kashua. Like I like that sort of like resolution to the plot arc of Leonar a lot better than this one. Yeah. This one just kind of came across like the dude's just disingenuous.
Yes, totally. He's
just lying for no reason to himself.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It was weird. It didn't make any sense to me.
He was working against his own. Yeah, that's great.
Against his own interests.
Yeah,
his own stated interests.
His own stated interests. Yeah,
it's crazy. There's another battle here against Gnop or whatever his name is, the Beastmaster.
Yes.
Oh, because they decide they want to strike Phidok, but they don't want to take we could take like some ships to get there.
Or go over the mountains.
But there's this path through the mountains. They won't expect us to go that way. Denim wasn't even aware that there was a path through these mountains.
Yeah.
He's like, how the frick are we going to cross the mountains? That's crazy.
Right.
But apparently there is some like real narrow, dangerous route that some traders take. But like it's going to be difficult and dangerous. And so you encounter him on that path through the mountains. Then we get the scene in Goliath where it's more or less exactly the same between Kashua and Lancelot. He convinces her, you're the daughter of Dol-Galiad, and you're the actual heir to the throne, you're the princess, come with me. Now we get to Ryme, where Denim he's kind of like hiding. He's kind of just like scouting out the place, it seems like. And then he sees like Vice running with some Bakram dudes.
With a bunch of soldiers, yeah.
And he's like, what the heck is Vice doing with Bakram soldiers? What is going on here? And this is the scene where Lancelot and Ronway are supposed to be meeting.
Yep.
And then he betrays them both. He comes in with a whole bunch of Bakram soldiers. He's like, oh, your grace, like, come to me. He's like, oh, thank goodness you're here, Vice. And she just freaking stabs him and kills him right there.
So quickly. Then and there.
And then turns on Lancelot. And that doesn't end up going well for him because Oz and Ozma
they show
are able to flee because they were held up by some Bakram knights too.
Right.
But those Bakram knights engage us, and because they engage us, Oz and Ozma escape to go help Lancelot, end up killing all of the guys that were with Vice. Yep. And so Vice is now at the mercy of these three Dark Knights. And his response is, as you were saying when we were driving over, is pathetic. It's pitiful.
Oh, Vice.
Why don't you just go ahead and talk about what we were talking about with Vice there, because it was really different. His end,
in Neutral
versus this.
Yeah. So in Neutral, he runs away, right? But he's not what he's trying to do isn't working. And you see his portrait and he's all bloody. He's been through so much crap, but he's still holding strong to this idea that I can win. Yeah. I can still win. You all are stupid, and I'm going to be the one to make it. He doesn't seem like he doesn't want to die, but he doesn't seem so pitifully afraid to die necessarily in the Neutral ending. And when his time comes, it's just like he's just got his philosophical words for us, like this will come to you too, and that kind of talk, like. And whereas in the Chaos route, as soon as things don't go well for him, he is just like crying and he's on his knees and he's begging. It wasn't my idea. I didn't do this on purpose. No, please spare me. And he
and then after this was Branton's idea. He made me do it. Didn't
Branton
work.
Made me do it.
After that doesn't work. Oh, I was possessed by an ogre.
That's right.
A demon.
That's right. An ogre possessed me. That was so good, which is probably true, by the way, although it likely happened way before this, right? Like, dude, you've had an ogre whispering in your ear a long time before, like, freaking this whole mess, okay? If that's what you're going to blame it on. But the most surprising thing of all is that One-Eyed Lance is like, you're pathetic, and I no longer consider you a threat of any kind. You're free to go. Yeah. And that's like, oh my gosh, what a crazy fate. And then, of course, may as well just bring it up now. We do get to see his ultimate fate, kind of at the end of this chapter. And he's being hanged on the gallows all the while.
By the Bakram.
By the Bakram, yes. And all the while being like, no, please, it was not my fault. I don't know. Here, go talk to your king. Your king knows.
I did what he said.
I just was following orders. Oh, no, please don't. Denim, save me.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That
he calls out to Denim.
That did kind of get to my heart a little bit, where I was like, ooh. But even still, I didn't think Vice would do that. And so I'm like kind of conflicted. If I had just played this route and I knew nothing about any of the other routes, it probably would, that line right there, Denim, save me, probably would have hit me a lot stronger. To be like, wow, this pathetic kid, how the mighty have fallen. But having seen other aspects of Denim or of Vice's personality, I'm less inclined to care at all. Actually, I really don't see him as a person in this game.
Yeah, and
as a character,
I am still very curious to go through the law route and see how they develop Vice there.
Yeah,
and whether he'll be this sort of idealist, righteous,
noble,
moral character who is willing to be self-sacrificial.
I do not fear death. I will do what is right.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, are we going to see that?
If that happens, I will have basically come around to the same conclusion I had at the beginning of the podcast.
Which is
that Vice is not a character.
Vice is something of a, he's a plot device.
He's just a plot device.
Yeah.
However, we'll save that for later. But it was, I guess the way I saw this was that in neutral route, he rises but falls by his own choice. Because it's like, I do not want to associate with Denim. I can't do that at this point.
Yeah.
I cannot let him again put me in his shadow.
Right.
So I choose to go be an outlaw and be chased around and have this really, really, really horrible time. And it gets so desperate that, well, if I'm going to go down, at least I'll take Duke Ronway with me.
Right.
Versus this way, which
different.
is I'm on top.
Yeah.
But then my own choices lead to my demise.
Forced me down. Yeah.
And this is a very sudden turn.
Yes.
And it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Please, I could
help me.
see that being or feeling a lot worse and more putting him in a position where he might beg or plead. But it is still just pathetic. And I love the way that Lancelot calls him out on it, because he says, please, this was Brandon's idea. It was him who put me up to this. I've no quarrel with the Dark Knight's mercy. I beg you. And Lancelot says, have you no honor whatsoever?
Right, or shame.
Holy crap.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Someone of his position, because we've fought a ton of battles in this game, right?
Yeah.
Whenever we fight somebody who believes in their cause, they are never like this.
No.
They never beg for mercy.
That's a good point.
They always say, like Wallister Filth. Like what was her name?
Great.
Or they say, well, at least I died doing what I felt was right. Or they say the name of their loved one or something like that. For him, it's like he is basically the worst of anyone in the entire game in terms of just being so pathetic.
Because he's not fighting for anything other than his own self-aggrandizement.
Yes, exactly.
He has no cause.
But everyone else we fight, they're so loyal and willing to die.
Yeah.
And Vice is so not.
And so
in this route,
I can see why Lancelot would look at that and be like, this is... You aren't a knight. You aren't a warrior.
Well, you might even be like, you're not even a person. What are you?
A freaking creature before me.
Yes.
I don't want to see you in my sight ever again. Now, the part that I thought was weird about this is that Lancelot lets him leave. Just lets him get up and go.
I don't know about that.
It could be that he sees him as so pathetic and so not a threat after this that, if I don't kill you now, you'll probably go back to the Bakram and they'll just freaking kill you anyways.
Well, he's right
Maybe
about that.
He's just assuming that that's how it'll go. But I'm very surprised that he would just let him walk out.
Because even if Vice sucks and is pitiful and just pathetic, he's not a weak person. We have fought him in this game. He's a talented fighter, and he's a formidable opponent.
And he at least formulated a plan that almost worked.
It almost worked.
To kill, well, it did work to kill Ronway, but he almost killed you.
Right.
It was only like a stroke of fate that Denim showed up, or else Vice would have killed you.
I don't
so why
see
would you
letting
let
him
that
go.
guy go?
No, I don't see letting him
crazy.
go. It's
crazy. Again, Lancelot is like super tolerant for reasons that just baffle me. I don't know why he is, but he has consistently been this way. So it's not out of character for him to do it, but it is really stupid for him not to do it, to let him just walk off after almost assassinating him. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah, wild.
But obviously, Vice just goes back and gets hanged, executed by the Bachram anyways. So, and
and that was as pathetic a scene as any.
It's so bad.
But imagine only having played Chaos and not knowing any of the others. It would have been a lot more powerful, I think.
Yeah, and it would have come across as a fitting end for Vice to me. Like,
very much.
Yeah, this is exactly what you deserve, bro. I'm glad
like
you die.
You want me back, don't you?
In fear and torturous sort of like, not like physical torture, but like mental.
Yeah, anguish. Yeah,
anguish.
Yeah,
I exactly what you deserve.
Yep.
Okay, back.
Oh, and Denim then says, "I didn't learn about his death
until later
for 2 days."
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the sentence.
That's the end.
And like, just basically Vice died just a nobody.
Yep.
And I realized too that one of the reasons why I loved the neutral ending so much is because I actually completely forgot about the character of Vice. I totally forgot about him. If I had remembered him, I would have liked the game less at the end of it. I would have liked neutral ending less. But all throughout Chapter 4, I completely forgot about Vice. And unfortunately, that leads me into the direction of he might just be a useless, expendable character for this game.
Yeah.
Because I just don't. I hate him.
I hate Vice. I freaking hate him.
Not even I hate him because he's evil. It's like I hate him. I hate his character. I hate the hollow shell of a character that he is.
He has no redeemable qualities whatsoever.
Yeah,
not
whatsoever.
One. So not at any point have we seen inside the hard shell and been like, oh, there's actually a person there who is the way he is because of abuse or because of trauma or because of whatever. Right. He's just a despicable person all the time.
I think this game would have been better without him.
Or, well, of course, giving him some reasons,
making him more of an actual character.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he's the weakest character by far in the game, which is unfortunate. I think that
it is because their relationship could have been
in that
something.
position needs to be one of the strongest characters. I'm not talking about strongest as in like fighting ability. I'm talking about the strength of his depth as a person.
Yeah,
he's the weakest.
And the relationship with other people. We needed to get a better sense of that.
I agree.
We kind of did skip over the wheel.
Let's talk about
with Leonar. I keep wanting to call him Leonis. I don't know why. I don't have a ton to say about it other than like when they talk about the wheel. It's so interesting because I didn't really get this as much in the neutral route in terms of them referencing it specifically. And then you like here all of a sudden it's like, oh, the wheel this, the wheel that. It's not something that stood out to me before. Was it at all? Were they referencing a wheel in a previous?
A lot of the soldiers you fight in just tons of battles throughout the game will say things like, "Oh, the wheel has turned for me," meaning like
I do know that
now fortune has fallen in my favor.
Oh, sure, yes.
So they'll use that term in that way.
I've understood that.
Denim, like, oh, now I can win that 30,000 goth, and the wheel has turned for me.
I do remember that now that you bring it up. It never stood out to me in terms of like a way that the world works, though, like a deep intrinsic like fate kind of system, I guess. I don't know. It didn't stand out to me as much.
Mechanically in the game refers to not only you can jump back to previous things, but like at the beginning of the game when you're choosing all your choices on the tarots and stuff like that. That's the wheel of fortune.
That's right. Yeah.
Sort of like creating the fates of these characters.
Right.
So the wheel exists as some sort of force mythologically in this world that determines the fates of people.
And it's something like fate or chance or what have you. And I guess I just wanted to bring it up just to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Because they reference it a lot.
They do talk about it a lot, but it's interesting in a world of gods that they're just referencing this ambiguous fate.
Turn the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
There are 12 gods on whom you can blame your problems. And instead you're like, oh, I just got unlucky, or hey, I just got really lucky. And well, there's a 13th god as well, I guess, with Philhaha, who is up there too, maybe. And my assumption is that this is just a reference to Philhaha or something like that. This is a reference to something above even the gods.
Yeah.
That the fate of the world, that there are fates and things to which even the gods are subject to.
Yeah.
And that's more or less what I got.
There's aligning yourself with one of these gods is all part of the wheel in the beginning of the game. You choose which element you want to be aligned with.
That's right. I remember that.
So you choose which goddess,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the wheel.
Cool.
Back at Omorica Castle, this night, I think, is a Gogostani night. We put ourselves at your mercy. Our swords are yours if you'll have them.
Oh, that's right. I think after this happens, we kind of just end up taking over Almorica, and the whole Wallister group is like,
sorry.
Denim becomes the new leader.
This is not Golgostani. This is an Almorican, a Wallister.
Yeah.
Knight. So these are the remnants.
This is at the table. Yeah.
These are the remnants of the Almorican Wallister force that are now allying with Denim.
Yep.
After Leonor and Ronway have fallen. So they're like, okay, we're going to come with you now. You're the leader of the Wallister at this point.
Yep.
We're yours to command. It was Sir Leonor's order that we surrender should it come to that. So Leonor gave an order to his men, if Denim wins, be on his side.
But why was he so against us?
I don't know. Yeah. I literally don't know why at the point where Leonor encountered us, where we fought him, he didn't just say, I'm coming to your side now.
I'm on your team.
You were right.
Yeah.
And Ronway's a monster. I know that. He's going to try and sell us out to Lotus in the end. I'm coming with you now. I don't feel like the justification in the writing and the words to page of his dialogue justified him fighting us at all. It doesn't make any sense.
How about this? He just can't live with himself after the massacre of Boma Musa.
That would be a reason. Right. He needs to say that.
Well, but does he have to say it? I don't know. That's just the question. Question mark. Does he have to say it?
I suppose he doesn't.
Because he refuses. It seems like he might be just refusing to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I mean,
like
going down with the ship in a sense, right? Like,
yes.
Hey,
but not
this is the path I chose, and I'm not worthy to be. But then just kill yourself.
Oh, sure,
Don't try to fight Denim. Don't try to now destroy the one hope that you said was left.
That's a good point.
For the people.
Yeah, or desert. You don't even have to kill yourself.
Just like go exile yourself.
Yeah.
Get on a ship and go to freaking Zenobia and be a beggar the rest of your life. I don't know. But, like, why would you, knowing that Denim was right, Ronway sucks, I don't deserve to fight alongside Denim, why wouldn't you do the honorable thing instead of trying to oppose and still fight for Ron? It just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
It doesn't.
I got you.
Okay. Anyway. Now they've decided they got to go to Phidok. So this is going to end up in a similar battle to the end of Neutral Route in Chapter 2.
Yep.
They got to go after...
we got to go find Kashua.
Yeah.
And Oz and Ozma are there.
There's another scene with Murden again, but Gildas is with him in this route. So Gildas didn't get killed in Ryme and become a zombie.
That's right.
So Gildas is still alive. So that was kind of cool. So he's there in that scene where you go talk to them and they come with you. So you can actually recruit Gildas in this route. So that's nice. And then you go to Bode Fortress, where Ozma and Oz had... Lancelot had sent them to go get Pransit, right? So it's the same as before, except in this version you don't kill Oz in this battle; he runs away.
Yeah.
And they don't find Saria in Boed. Like Oz brought her out in the version in Neutral.
That's right.
And started like playing around and torturing her and stuff. That didn't happen in this version. She was just able to hide.
Yeah, she hid or
She wasn't discovered.
Yeah.
So after the battle with Oz and he flees in this one, you go down and find her, and because you're not allied with Duke Ronway, she doesn't see you as a hypocrite and actually joins you this time.
Yeah.
So that's the difference in this battle. But then they go on to Phok after that.
Yeah.
And that battle goes basically exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Except
Kashua
that
won't listen, all that stuff.
you get into Phok and Kashua strikes at Denim because in the neutral route, she had killed Leonor. Leonor was the one that got in there, and she kills him.
That's right.
In this one, she actually swipes at Denim, which was like, ooh.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was like, whoa, that's nuts.
Yeah. What would bring her to do that? It's a pretty quick change for that. I like the Leonor one better.
I kind of do too, but I also kind of liked this because it shows...
Well, going to kill us by her own hands
again,
that quickly? I don't know.
I think that we kind of talked about this. I don't know which episode it was.
We did. She secretly...
Where Lancelot gave her all of the justification she needed to not
to leave
care about Denim anymore.
Totally.
He's not really my brother.
But not to kill him. I would stop short at that one.
Yeah. Unless she's just that freaking furious.
I suppose.
That he abandoned her. This is like her worst possible fear. He loved his war more than me, and he's not really my brother. And he's now leading an army to try to take my rightful, what do you call it? She's the heir to the throne, right? She should be the real queen here.
Yes.
And now he's in a position where he's going to become some kind of king or something like that.
Right. He's kind of going to lead the wallister, which is...
Not only did he abandon me, not only did he love his war more than me...
But he succeeded.
But he's also going to take away my birthright as a queen.
Right.
Maybe I can see some justification in this, but I'm not discounting what you're saying. I mean, you lived with this person for freaking 18 years. And
yeah. It's one thing to finally feel like he abandoned me first, I'll abandon him back. It's just a different thing to
actually
single-handedly,
when it comes to
by your own hand,
raise the freaking blade and take that life. That's a big step.
Now maybe were I making this into a movie, I'd make it seem as though she knew it wouldn't hurt him. She swung, but not really to actually try to kill him. That's the
more
way.
Just to
and in pixel art, you can do that
to make
in
the
your
point
mind.
That she's really mad.
Yep, just like get away from me. Like all right.
Or even to raise it, but not necessarily
or point it
go
even
through.
Yeah,
or maybe she's trembling with it in her hand,
full swing there,
and like she's not actually fully dedicated to the swing. I can see that. Anyway, this battle,
pixel art,
you end up fighting with Oz and Ozma. You kill them both. Oz says some interesting things here. It's like we're actually more alike. We would both do anything for our sisters. And she's like, shut up. There's a reason you lost at boat. You freaking talk too much. Just like get it over
That's
with.
Right, Ozma.
He's like, you wounded me, sister. But you end up killing them both. I actually kind of like the route where you kill Ozma first, because then he gets really pissed. Because he just said that. Like, I care about my sister like you care about your sister. You then kill his sister. Like, oh, God. And he has given all these hints through a lot of this that he enjoys torturing people.
Yeah.
So, like, even at the beginning of the fight, like, which eye should I take?
Yes,
and then
that's
send that to...
Or nose or ear, right?
Yeah,
that was one, too.
I should take that and make it into some kind of locket or, like, pendant to give to your sister. It's been said you only have eyes for her. You know, like this witty way of, like, implying the torture. So he's a pretty jacked up dude.
Right.
And even in at the end of the last battle, he's like, "Oh, you're running away," says Denim to him. He's like, "I enjoy inflicting pain a lot more than receiving it."
Hey, he's honest. He's consistent.
Yeah, he knows. He's self-aware.
That's so funny.
Anyway, though, you slay them both. I didn't really have much else to say about that, but that leads to the end of chapter 2. And then the transition into 4 is basically the same as in the neutral route, but with the people looking for a savior, and the daughter of Dorgalua was kind of like that symbol for them.
And it opens on Lancelot being tortured. So it's basically the same at that point.
In the battle against Lancelot in chapter 4, where Kashua is there, Depending on a choice you made earlier, she will participate or not
in the fight,
in the battle itself.
Yes.
So there's a couple different ways this can go. We talked about this a little bit last time. You can kill her in the course of the battle itself.
Right.
And Denham's just like, no, I can't believe this. And Lancelot then just like pieces out like, well,
yeah, you suck.
You just killed your sister, you suck, and like we just lost the key, right? Like, although they have the sword still.
Yeah,
but anyway, he just pieces out. Now, if she doesn't participate in the battle, or if you don't kill her, I guess, she goes up into another room up in the castle, like a small sort of like quarters up high, and Denim and his men are kind of looking for her, right? And she's sort of hiding. Again, there's actually two different ways this can go. I think if you fought her in the battle, maybe Ivan will correct me if I'm wrong. If you fought her in the battle and didn't kill her, she'll be hiding like in the doorway, and Denim will go through and then turn around towards the door and be like, you shouldn't be hiding in doorways. And
I think that's the one I got.
Out.
That's the one that I saw.
There's another one where she was sent up there at the beginning and didn't fight at all. And so she's just sitting in the room and he just finds her there. So the dialogue will go the same. It's just like his entrance and finding her is different depending on if she ran from the battle and was hiding or if she was sent there and didn't participate. I believe that's the difference there. I'm still trying to find this. There's a lot of freaking battles in Chapter 4.
Well, I have Denim is asking basically like, why are you doing this? Why did you leave all this stuff? And obviously there's the general reasons which Dark Knight Lance gave, which is like, hey, you're the princess and all that stuff. But she has one line that I wrote down that I thought was very interesting. She says, at least here I know I am needed. Yeah. She has this deep desire to be needed, to be wanted, for people to... So it's like she would almost... This almost feeds into the abandonment thing a little bit too. She feels abandoned if she isn't needed. Like, it's not just that you have to be there. Maybe also it's not even enough that you just have to think about her. It's only enough if you need her, right? She needs to be needed. And she's the older sister, right? Yes. So she always was the caretaker, and this seems to be a big part of her personality. And now she has a kingdom she can take care of instead of just a brother. And so she's like, oh, they need me. I'm needed. I can go, like, help people. She seems to just really be motivated by that. And then I think that's where you have that question. Where there's a little prompt that comes up for you. You can say, I do need you. I found the dialogue here. Okay, good.
So Denim says, Kashua, and she says, oh, sorry. Okay, are you all right, he says to her. What do you mean to do with me? Do with you? I'm here to help you, sister.
Right.
Come no closer, she says. Please, sister, I'm not your sister. I'm Versalia, rightful ruler of Valeria. No, you'll always be my sister. Right. And that kind of gets to her a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she justified all of this by convincing herself, I guess, in the way that she did, that Denim abandoned me. He doesn't really care about me.
Right.
And he's right in front of her, could kill her, like we were talking about just a few minutes ago. If her motivation for being able to strike at him was assuming he abandoned me and he's willing to take my kingdom away from me,
right,
then he's here right now to do what with me? You're going to kill me, or you're going to put me in prison? Like, what are you going to do with me?
Right.
He's like, I'm not going to do anything. Like, I'm here to help you. You're always going to be my sister. I don't care if you're not blood related. Like, you're always going to be my sister. And he's starting to break her walls down a little bit.
Yeah.
Then Denim says, we lived our whole lives together. One day you may be queen of Valeria, but you'll always be a sister to me. Blood be damned. So now he's saying, you can go ahead and be queen. Like, I'm not here to be king. That's not what I'm fighting for. And she says, a lie. What brother would abandon his sister as you did? And this is where you get your choice. One, I never abandoned you.
Right, which does seem in character for Denim.
Yeah.
But given that he's just oblivious, like, because the way that I make sense of the whole abandonment thing is that he just is oblivious to what she considers an abandonment. That would be in line. But the other one...
The other choice is, you are my sister and I love you.
Yes.
Now, here's the confusing thing.
I can never not choose that one.
Yeah, that's the one I would choose normally. But keep this in mind. If you're trying to go for princess ending and have her survive...
Yeah, apparently there's...
The right answer to this flips, depending on something you did earlier.
Yeah, and that was... Yeah, Ivan mentioned that. Yes. And that's good to know, but at the same time... good luck.
I wish there was
figuring it out.
I wish it was just "you are my sister and I love you" was the route that saves
Because
her.
that's the right thing to say. Come on,
Yes.
people. Like, let's be real.
Yes. Don't continue the argument.
To deny that you.
Yes.
Yeah. To deny
Especially
her
considering
feelings.
what we've been saying about how men and women often speak past each other with terms like this.
Yes.
They mean this when they say abandonment.
Yeah.
We think of abandonment maybe in a different way.
Yeah.
He's now acknowledging her
Right.
definition of abandonment.
Right.
I'm sorry I did that.
Right.
I love you, though.
And
I love you, sister. How could I want to see you taken from me? Your love is inconsistent as the wind. It is my crown you love, not me.
Oh, yeah. I get what she's saying, but it is. I genuinely do feel like Denim. No, that's not what he's about.
Yeah, you're wrong, sister. More lies. Everywhere I turn, more lies. That's what'll happen if you chose the wrong choice.
Oh,
if
really?
you chose the right choice, she then goes, Denim. Like she starts kind of breaking down. But like I said, either one of these can go wrong. I wanted to be your sister. No, more simple than that. I wanted to be near someone who needed me for me. And Denim has no response to that. Right. Why can't you see me for the person I am? Denim, look at me with your heart as well as your eyes. This is where she pulls a knife out. And she kills herself. She thrusts it into her own chest. Sister, no, someone help us. I am a burden no more, is her last words. So she felt like a burden to Denim, which is why she left.
Yeah.
She didn't feel needed by him. She felt like she was a burden. They're always arguing.
Yeah.
He never listens to what she has to say. He loves his war and his countrymen more than he loves me. He doesn't want me around. He doesn't need me. In that sense, he's abandoned me.
Right.
So I'm going to go be the Queen of Versailles so that the people will need me. Lancelot will need me. Someone needs me for something.
Yeah.
Right. It was kind of the whole motivation behind that move. And again, if you're making the right choice based on all the stuff I even talked about, she'll break down and be like, "Oh, I was so selfish."
Right.
And I'm sorry. How could you ever forgive me? And he does. And that will lead to princess ending, which is what we'll talk about next week.
Perfect.
In the law route. But if she kills herself, or if you killed her, it leads to the other ending, which we talked about before. But the variation of that ending is in the after credits scene. In the one that we got last time, it led to the assassination of Denim, which was my favorite of these two.
I loved it.
But
so good.
In the other, it actually goes to the king of Zenobia, who is being informed that Lotus is basically marshaled this massive army and is launching to take the Isles of Valeria.
Yeah.
And that like Denim basically stands no chance.
They're screwed. Yeah.
So either way, Denim is going to freaking die, whether it's by the hands of Lancelot and the Knights of Lotus, or whether it's by some Bakram or Wallister or Gargastani who felt that he had wronged him and he was avenging his some person he loves death. Either way, it doesn't work out for Denim. So like the only, I guess you could call it good ending for the
way
game
that it works out,
is if Kashua forgives Denim and becomes the queen. That's basically it. So that's it. I think that was all that we wanted to kind of get through today. But
yeah, we'll talk more about that.
Did you have any other notes?
No. Just in general, I didn't storm the castle.
Yeah.
Not storming the castle is better for Abuna Princit, right? Yes. Because not storming the castle means that you just kind of are showed in and you get to introduce
just have
to
that
this new
scene right away.
Also, this Olivia girl, I'm very confused why they decided to sneak in a romance at the very end of the game, and they're just like, Olivia likes Denim, and then it's like, okay, over, and I'm like, well, who is Olivia? Okay, like I kind of get it, but that was a little interesting, I thought. But Kashua, as soon as she recovers from the whole situation and she doesn't die, right? The next scene we have is of her like being a leader, right? Which you have not seen this entire game. Yeah. And when she takes charge, and she's at, I think it's Almorica, actually I can't remember where, she's at one of the castles in the meeting room, right? And there's all the generals and all the staff, they're all grilling her like, hey, this is happening, we need help here, the military here, and then supplies here, and she's just like, okay, you do this, and we need this here, and also no, I disagree, in fact, it would be better if we keep the peace for now, and all that kind of stuff. Like she like blossoms into this extremely good and what would you say, talented, or somebody. She has this leadership about her that Denim didn't really respect, but that was always latent within her. But she just didn't have anyone who cared about what she was saying.
Yes,
but she often was right.
Yeah.
About what she was, especially from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like she saw reason and she was right about a lot of things. But nobody would ever listen to her. And now that she's in a position where it's like, you have to listen to her, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, she's actually good at this. Yeah. She actually seems quite competent. And I didn't know how she was going to come across here. And so it was really nice seeing her in that kind of a role. And after all of the advisors leave and it's just her and Denim, she's like, did I do good? Like, am I ruling the kingdom well? And Denim's like, you're doing great. And I loved that. Like, that was really fun. Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there's also just the general stuff. You know, this is something we probably talk about more in Law Ending, but there's some stuff that she says here that it would result in a long conversation. So look forward to it, everybody.
Next time.
We're going to do it. We're going to get into it next time.
All right. Law route next time. I'm actually pretty eager to see.
Oh, me too.
The differences in Vice's character. In Law,
I disagree. I'm less eager about Vice. I'd rather. I'm
eager
him.
Not because I'm expecting it to change my mind, but because I'm just
right.
Like, this is going to be like crazy. This is going to be like radically different. I assume
it is, but, and I'm not eager to see that, but I'm eager to see everything else goes.
Yeah, and I am eager to see Denim's route of the guilt, sort of like leading him to change course.
Right.
And I've been told by many people that the Law route is like the best written of the three.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it'll be interesting.
Cool.
Well, that's what we'll talk about next time. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week.